Your what? All right, welcome back, human nerds, to another spectacular video made by a millennial with the typical millennial lists.
Yes, very typical.
Yeah. So today we're going to be doing our recommendations to get into fantasy list, which I know is probably going to make a lot of people angry and upset who've been into fantasy for a long time, but oh well. Me and my wife Marissa here, we have a lot of differing opinions on this, which before anyone comes at us in the comments, just so we're clear, she is a fantasy nerd.
Yes.
She has read most of Gardens of the Moon at this. What's the Malice? And she's read a lot of stuff, but she does have opinions on what would be a good starter point. So the whole focus of this list is going to be getting someone who's coming to us with different ways of like saying, I want to start reading some fantasy. What books would you recommend? Mm-hmm. All right. Yep. And we decided in honor of the Hive to use this colander to pull out. We came up with prompts. We started to think of like what situations and which books we'd recommend in those situations. Because not everybody wants the same thing. You might know someone a little better than somebody else. So I don't know. It's a fun way to do it instead of just saying these are the 10 books I'd recommend. It's like, all right, what if we have this particular situation? What book would we recommend? I plan on doing this with a horror list at some point, but I haven't done a fantasy in a while. So let's go ahead and do a fantasy one. So we're going to use this colander, which I've known my whole life as a strainer, but thanks to the Hive, I am educated now.
And we know it's a colander.
Yeah, we know it's a colander. All right, you ready, Marissa?
Yeah.
All right, so Marissa's going to be in charge of pulling the prompts, and she can sit cross-legged in a chair, and my body refuses to even acknowledge that position.
Okay, let's see. What would be your recommendation for someone who says they want a book that's a bit of a genre blender?
Okay, so in this case, somebody who wants a book that is fantasy but blends another genre into it because they don't know if they want to go full fantasy yet.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to go first?
Sure. So for that one, I actually picked The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I was, and I still am, obsessed with that book. It was such a unique take on fantasy. I felt like it had sci-fi in it too, with like the creatures that were coming into the area. I don't want to spoil too much. It was kind of like a crime mystery vibe to it as well, like a take on Sherlock Holmes. And it also had, obviously, fantasy and a little bit of horror too. Like there were parts of it that were quite scary. So I think that would be a really fun and unusual book for someone who maybe reads other genres but wants a little hint of fantasy sprinkled in as well.
Yeah, that's a good one because, yeah, it's like I always describe it as it's Sherlock Holmes in a fantasy world. Mm-hmm. And that's how it played out. So I enjoyed that one too. That was good. All right, my genre blend would be Jade City by Fonda Lee. I feel like in this case you get your fantasy sort of combat with like a little bit of a magic system with the Jade.
Yeah.
The way I describe it as like the Jade almost makes them superhuman in a way. Like think like Super Soldier Captain America, where it's like they just get enhanced speed, enhanced, fighting and stuff. It's not like they're going crazy with it, but this one island produces it. It's this mafia-esque story. So the reason it's a genre blend is because you're getting this like crime thriller gangster like story with fantasy elements thrown into it. So I would go with Jade City, but I actually think Tainted Cup is a better choice. Like I think Tainted Cup is the exact example of I want something with fantasy elements, but is a different genre in its scope. Mm-hmm. I'd pick Tainted Cup.
And I think Robert Jackson Bennett's kind of an underrated author. Like he writes beautifully. I've read one of his other series as well, and he's a beautiful writer, and I think he has a unique take on fantasy.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, that's that. Are we ready for the next prompt?
Let's see. Okay. What book would you pick if you are vibing with the person, meaning you're friends with the person, they come to you and they ask, hey, you read a lot of fantasy. What should I read?
Yeah, this is like, I think I would get along. Like this person might be a friend beyond just asking for a recommendation, which as an adult, we all know it's very hard to make friends. So you're vibing really good with this person. So I'll go first on this one. I would want to throw a Terry Pratchett book at them. So I would say if I met somebody and I'm really vibing with them and they're getting my sense of humor and they're having fun with like how satirical I can be and how dark humored I can be, I would throw Guards at them by Terry Pratchett because I feel like that book I would know immediately if you like that book, I get along with you. If you bounce off of that book, I'd be like, all right, maybe our humors don't exactly align, so we'll do something else. But Guards by Terry Pratchett. It's about it's so hard to describe. It's without spoiling much. Terry Pratchett just takes a concept and runs with it. In this case, you have Sam Vimes, and he runs the local guard station or whatever in town. And what's the name of the city? It's like Ankh-Morpork or whatever. I don't know. I always call it Ankh-Morpork. And basically a dragon comes and there's all kinds of stuff going on. But the whole point of the story it's very much the like, we don't get paid enough to do this and I don't want to do this right now. But like somebody's got to step up and do something. So I just enjoyed it the whole time. It's fun. Mm-hmm. And they have a character named Carrot. He's hilarious. So he's very much the archetype of like the farmer hero that comes to the city for the job, and he's way strong and he's way too moral for his job, and Sam's always like, dude, like you may be taking this a little too seriously. So anyways, Guards by Terry Pratchett would be my choice. So what's yours?
All right, my pick would be Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Because it's one of my favorite series, so if I feel like I'm going to be a good friend of yours, then you have to read Red Rising so we can talk about it all the time. And B, like kind of like what Brandon said, the humor in it, it kind of vibes with my sense of dark humor. The action in the book, it's constant. The politicking in the book. And then most importantly, it's an amazing series. So if I get you into the first one and you enjoy it, then we have a whole series of books that we can talk about or read together and discuss.
I think she just wants to be your therapist because she knows you're going to be aggravated after reading each book.
Yeah.
So she wants to talk to you about how she's sorry about letting you see who gets killed off and which bad decisions are made and who gets tortured.
Yeah. And why Pierce Brown is amazing, but also will make you cry.
Yeah. So all right, Red Rising. Cool.
Yep. All right. Let's see.
What's our next prompt?
Oh, okay. What would you pick for someone wanting a classic Lord of the Rings feeling?
All right, so here we go. The person who wants that, I saw Lord of the Rings. Everyone talks about Lord of the Rings. I want that in a book, but I'm not ready for Lord of the Rings yet. I've tried it. Maybe they've tried it and they're like, oh, no, thank you. Because it is a lot to get into. So what would give them that same feeling without, and maybe they could go to Lord of the Rings after that, you know? So what would you recommend?
I put Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. And I also think this would work for someone who's saying that they want Wheel of Time without Wheel of Time. It has that classic, like, farm boy hero getting into a situation that they're not prepared for, becoming a hero when all they really wanted to do was be at home with their family. But I think this Of Blood and Fire works well for someone who wants that vibe because there is a bit more action to it. The characters are very likable. There's dragons. Everybody loves dragons. And I think it's an easy read. I mean, you read it recently. I think you would agree.
Yeah.
It's not going to bog you down and make you feel like, well, I don't really understand what's going on. I don't understand why this is important. So I think it's something that anyone could enjoy.
Yeah, it doesn't get bogged down in unnecessary details. Like I'm not spending 3 pages describing a tree, or I'm not spending 4 pages describing what clothes someone's wearing. So.
And you can tell that Cahill was inspired by Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time.
Oh yeah.
If you 1000%, you can tell he was inspired by it. But I think it's a more modern take on those ideas. Yeah,
I like to think of it because we're also a little bit into the board game hobby. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I always hear the word streamline in the board when we're watching board game videos. Like when people take ideas of older board games and they streamline them for newer ones, the fun stuff. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what he did with Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time is he said like, all right, I love these 2 things. I'm going to try to streamline some of it and see if I can't get it moving a little faster, which I think was fantastic. And I actually think it's a great gateway to get into those things after because you're like, all right, I've got a basic idea of what I like. Now I'm fine to let myself be absorbed and immersed in the world like you would be when you're in Lord of the Rings. So,
yeah.
All right. My recommendation for the classic fantasy feel is actually going to be an R.A. Salvatore book called The Crystal Shard. Now, The Crystal Shard is technically the first published book in the Legend of Drizzt series, and if you want to read it chronologically, you can start with Homeland, which is the Dark Elf trilogy beginning book. It's like Homeland, Sojourn, Exile, Sojourn, something like that, or it might have Sojourn and Exile. I don't remember, but that would be great. But you're mostly getting a straight Dark Elf story with that. If you want that feeling of having multiple races, sort of going on this classic adventure feeling, trying to stop the evil wizard. There's a tower, like in Lord of the Rings you'd see with the, Sauron's eye and all that. I would go with the Crystal Shard. The Crystal Shard, you get Dritz as the Dark Elf. You get Regis the Halfling, his odd ruby pendant. You get Brunor Battlehammer, the dwarf, and his adopted daughter, Caddy Bree, who's a human bow and arrow. You got Wolfgar the Barbarian, who comes in at some point. You've got, it's just good. You get a nice, awesome, classic fantasy story with the Crystal Shard. So you're going to, and if you like it, I would say from there, you go backwards and you read the Dark Elf trilogy to learn about Dritz's background. Mm-hmm. And then you just keep going, because then you got like Streams of Silver next, where they go, like that one feels like The Hobbit, because they're going to find Brunor's old mountain and like recover it from the dragon that took it. So it's very much The Hobbit. And then after that, you got my favorite of the Ari Salvatore stuff with that, Legend of Dritz, which is the Halfling's Gem. So like Crystal Shard's going to give you that classic feeling, and then if you like it, you can just keep going. Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like all those books, he gives you that classic fantasy feeling. It's just that's the starter point. All right. Let's move on to our next prompt.
All right. What would be a next step book or series for someone who has either read fantasy before or is just a reader in general? Okay,
so yeah, this is like we know they're a reader. We know they read a lot. So we're not necessarily worried about like scaring them off. And we're like, all right, what would I give them? Like, I'm not not concerned about page count, not concerned about maybe triggers as much, stuff like that. Like, I feel like this person, I can just recommend them a book and I don't have to worry about those things that would prevent somebody who doesn't read from getting into it. Mm-hmm. Right? All right, so you go ahead. What you got?
First Law.
All right.
Abercrombie. This is, I think, currently my favorite series. I say currently because I'm reading The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne, and it might overtake it. I'm not sure. I haven't decided yet. But I think First Law is a great next step series. You have complex characters. You have complex political events. You have a lot of action. You have a lot of intrigue. And I think it's a good place to go if you just enjoy reading for the sake of reading. You don't necessarily have to like fantasy to enjoy the series. I don't think, because the fantasy's there, but it's not like it's not the main event, I would say.
Yeah. Plus, like, I feel like that's a good one too. If you know they're a reader and they're like, I want that kind of maybe like Game of Thrones feeling a little bit.
Without like having to jump into Game of Thrones. And I mean, those books are pretty dense. So I think it's a good replacement for that. I considered putting Stormlight Archive here. My concern with that is I feel like it's not as, I would say it's not as action-packed and the books are longer. So even if you are a reader, it is a bit of an ask to say, here, read this 1,000-page book, but you're only going to get like a lot of action at the end.
Yeah.
So I think First Law gives you it's a shorter ask in terms of reading, but you're going to get more payoff from it.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think having recently reread The Blade itself, I was like, oh, yeah, this is something I would definitely say next step. I got that person coming to me who is a reader. They want something that feels maybe like Game of Thrones because they saw that on TV.
Yeah.
And look, spoiler alert, Game of Thrones is not going to be on this list only because of I would feel bad recommending something I know is not going to be finished. I don't know that. I'm not a psychic, but let's be honest.
So pessimistic.
I mean, I'm 34 feeling like I'm 60 thanks to my health. Like, I can't imagine how George R.R. Martin feels. So, that's a good one. First Law. What did I put for mine? Oh, so I'm going to talk about a Sanderson book. So there will be a Sanderson book on this list. I know most people in a recommended fantasy list would put Mistborn. And I agree with that. I like the Mistborn trilogy. I thought it was a good read. I had a fun time with it. The only thing holding it back from being a book I would just slap in someone's hands if I don't know is the length.
Yeah.
Each book's like 800 pages. And I know for us readers out there, that's not a big deal. But if I'm got two different people in the room, if I got somebody who's not a reader and they want to read fantasy, I would not hand them an 800-page book because I don't think they'll finish it, and I won't be able to get. I feel like to get someone into the genre, they need to experience the whole arc of a story. They need to see it grow. They need to see that inciting incident all the way through the climax and how it ends. They need to see the magic come alive. And if they only make it through the first 200 pages of Mistborn, they're not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I would ruin the fantasy genre for them if I did that. Now, you give me somebody who reads a lot and has no qualms about page count, and they're like, what's the book everyone wants to talk about for fantasy? Yeah, give them Mistborn. Mistborn in a Heartbeat or Final Empire. Like, they'll be fine with that. Mm-hmm. So it all depends on who I'm talking to. I hesitate to give a very long book to somebody who isn't much of a reader yet, because I do think there's a thing as reading stamina as a teacher. Yeah. I do think there's a thing of, some people, when we sit down, me and you can easily crank out 50 to 100 pages in a sitting. Yeah. A lot of people might only crank out 10 pages in a sitting. Divide that over 800 pages, you're asking people to consistently read a book for 80 straight days. Yeah. Like that's a lot of an ask, to be honest, in today's society and stuff like that. So, just throwing it out there. Mistborn, I think, is a next step recommendation. Mm-hmm. Give them something lighter first. Give them something shorter first. Then hit them with Mistborn. All right. Yep. So that's my controversial take. I did have a Sanderson book, though, so no one can yell at me about that. I do like Sanderson. I'm not a big Stormlight Archive person, but we'll talk about that in a later video.
Okay. All right. So what would be your recommendation for someone who's a bit of a younger audience or a younger reader?
Okay. So like a younger audience, I got a kid who wants to get into fantasy. What would I give them? I'll go first on this one since mine is Selfish. Okay. And she actually has a better pick for this one. I'm going to throw Del Toro Quest at them. I grew up, that was the book that got me into fantasy. That series, if you could get your hands on like the original individual volumes, they're so pretty looking and they're so like enticing. They look all beautiful and majestic. I hate how the first one starts because it can be a hard sell to kids. I've learned with like the first half of that book sort of being a prologue to the whole series, and then you get into it. But I don't know. It's a great starter fantasy, and I think it hits all those checks. You get fantasy creatures, you get likable heroes. They kind of fit that younger crowd. They have the same behavior as the younger crowd. You get, collecting cool gemstones that the kids get to watch, like build up on the spines of the book as they're collected. They're manageable chunks of reading, 100 pages each. 120 pages. Like they have puzzles in the middle of them the kids can see be solved and drawings on I don't know. It's just good stuff. Del Toro Quest. If you got a kid you want to get them into fantasy, I don't know, try it. Like, maybe you can get them into it. They also make companion books that have, like, the monsters they encounter in them and stuff. I don't know. It was a whole thing when I was in, like, 6th grade. So, I loved it. I still want to... I read the first 6 of them to our daughters. Mm-hmm. But I want to reread because I don't think they remember them. They were really young. I was doing that to put them to sleep. So, anyways. All right. What's your actual better pick?
I picked Ascendant by Michael R. Miller. I recently... read that one. I had heard a lot of people on YouTube talking about it and how it's technically like a YA book, but like adults can like it too. So I was like, okay, well, let me pick it up and see how I feel, because I do teach junior high. So I was like, well, let's see how this goes. I really enjoyed it. It had a couple of things that I think work really well for both adults, but especially for a younger audience, for various reasons that I won't spoil. Our main character is not supposed to be bonded to a dragon, okay? And his dragon is not even supposed to be alive, but yet they go and they become the hero of the series. I've read the first 2 now. They're the hero. They're trying to fight the evil forces that are threatening to ruin their world. They have to team up with other dragons. They have to team up with other dragon riders who maybe don't accept them for who they are, which I think teaches a valuable lesson to a younger audience of being accepting of people who are different than you, and maybe, breaking stereotypes and being more welcoming to people in general. The pacing I thought was really good. Every chapter kind of tended to end on like a cliffhanger to make you want to keep going into the next chapter, which I think works well for a younger audience. And I don't think it was too long. I also, I picked up the audiobook. The audiobook is really good. So if you have a younger child, or if you're looking to recommend something maybe to someone who doesn't have a lot of reading stamina, the audiobook is very good as well. So it's something that they could listen to while they're doing, other things. But I really like it. And I think it's kind of like this generation's like Aragon. Because I know when we were young, that was like the, ooh, a boy and his dragon and they have to save the world. It's a lot like that, but I think it's better.
Okay. Yeah. The old Goosebumps strategy, cliffhanger endings of chapters.
Yes. Keep you going.
That's the trick to Goosebumps. Y'all, that's why I got so big. They put the bad guy on the cover and they end every chapter with a cliffhanger. Yep. Beautiful stuff. All right. What's our next prompt? Yep.
All right. Well, we'll keep that one for the end. I cheated. We'll keep that one for the end.
Okay. We cheat on every list, so y'all know this by now.
What would be your go-to pick if you don't really know the person, but they ask you for a book recommendation? All
right. So this one's kind of fun because we picked the same author for this. If I don't know the person very well and they're like, oh, I want to get into fantasy, I'm like, I have no idea what to give this person. So this pick kind of depends on if we feel like we'll kind of talk about together on this one. Mm-hmm. If we feel like the person would lean more towards like a medieval Europe feeling fantasy or like a Viking fantasy. Mm-hmm. So I would go with the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne, which is the Shadow of the Gods is the first one, and then Hunger of the Gods, and then Fury of the Gods. Just feel like if I don't know the person at all, and maybe they're excited, they're like, I want something that's like a lot of action in it. It's awesome. And it's like, maybe there's someone who would watch like the Viking TV show. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, bam, Shadow of the Gods. Like, enjoy. So, and then on the other hand, you would recommend what?
I picked Malice, which is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. I devoured that book. Like, I feel like it has all of those like classic expected things that someone might see in a fantasy book. So there's like evil giants. There's, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. There's giants. There's lots of battles. There's evil gods messing with people. There's the good god who's gone missing and people are trying to maintain, their goodness in this world that's, they're expecting the God War to come back. So I feel like it kind of has all those expectations that people might have for fantasy, but the character POVs are really, really good. Like you either love the characters or you like really, really hate them, but you want to know what's going to happen to them. And I feel like you can read the first one and be like, okay, maybe it's not for me, but if you like it, you have 3 more books that are all equally good. I'm on the 3rd one right now, and it only gets better.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Like you said, the good god has gone missing.
Yeah, the good god. He's the absent god. He's gone. We don't know where he is. But
the idea of like, how do you maintain your faith when you don't know if it matters?
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
And it has like that chosen one trope in it as well.
Maybe that's why it's called the Faithful and the Fallen.
Yeah. It has that trope, the chosen one trope, but I feel like it's done in a really unique way, and it has you guessing or like thinking, wait, is this person the chosen one or are they not the chosen one? And there's not, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's actually like 2 chosen ones, like for the good guys and the bad guys.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
It's kind of fun. Anyway,
cool. All right, so there you go. Take a John Gwynne book.
Yeah.
I don't know the person. I'll vibe them out. Do I feel medieval? We'll give them Malice. To feel Viking, give them Shadow of the Gods.
And I feel like, the books are long, but his writing, the way that he...
Oh, John Gwynne's writing is like, you fly through it.
Yeah, it doesn't drag. There's always some sort of action, even if it's not like a fight scene. Like, it's building to something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like a 600-page book.
Yeah, like, I would tell people straight up, if I recommended that book, I'm like, you will eat it. It's not something that, like, don't worry about the page count. Yeah. But earlier we were joking about, but I do feel like Sanderson's writing is a little bit slower.
Yeah.
So, like, I want to be careful about that. John Gwynne is just like, boom, 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 boom. So, good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right, next prompt.
Oh, okay. That's kind of ironic coming after your mention of Sanderson. What would you recommend for someone who really wants a book that has beautiful writing?
Oh, beautiful writing.
Like their prose is just like.
All right, I'll go first since yours is also the better pick for this one. I'm gonna give a weird one. She's actually gonna pick one that has, and let's just go ahead and say this now. Robin Hobb, Farseer. She's gonna talk about Farseer for a different prompt.
Yes.
But that would also fit for this prompt. We were debating on where to put it. So if you want to go read The Assassin's Apprentice is the first one, right?
Yep.
Like, that would be a great one. So Robin Hobb is great for her prose. My choice for this one is a little weird. It's more about the way he structures the book and the way it plays out and his dialogue and how... So it's not... It is good prose. It's not necessarily beautiful like we think of it in terms of beautiful. I would say it's just very stylistic.
Yeah.
I would pick Scott Lynch's The Lies of Locke Lamora. I feel like you're going to get a very unique read with this. I feel like you're going to get a very interesting read. You're going to get an interesting blend of writing styles and structures. You're going to get he's going to play around with the timeline, and the way he writes. It's just so. I keep using the word structure, but that's what it feels like. Like you could tell a lot of thought and planning went into how he put that book together. So I feel like if I'm asked, give me something with very unique, interesting, beautiful writing, I would throw Lies of Locke Lamora, or the book that honestly we cross over with. I'm gonna let Marissa talk about.
The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Honestly, anything written by Samantha Shannon. Okay. The way that she writes, it's like music coming off of the page. And what I really loved about The Priory of the Orange Tree is not only the beautiful writing, but like it was a good book. Like there was action, there was romance, there was political intrigue. And even though it's a chunky book, I felt like I wanted to keep reading. Like I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And I like this book because it is a standalone. It's part of a series, but each one can be read on its own. So
yeah, it's like each one is a different time in the world. So it's like Orange Tree is this story in this time period. But if you go read what's the next one called? A
Day of Fallen Night.
That's like a prequel, right? Yes. Like it's a different set of characters doing a different thing. So,
and then she also has another series. I can't think of the name of the series, but the first book is The Mime Order. That's also really good. Her writing is beautiful. That one's a little bit more YA, a little bit more sci-fi, maybe I would say.
Yeah. Those were like psychics and stuff.
Yeah. Also super cool. Like I think she's an underrated author in just the sense that like you can tell she is a writer. She puts thought into every single word that she puts on the page, but she's also going to craft a story that's going to keep you hooked in what's going on.
Yeah, my experience with her writing is I originally tried her, I want to say on audio, right? And she can go crazy speeds with audio. For me, it depends on the narrator, but I do tend to go either 1.2 or 1.5. But I was bouncing off of it and I couldn't figure out why. And she's the one who told me, she's like, you need to go read the physical sentences of this book. This is not one where you can kind of half in, half out pay attention while because I do have ADHD, so like I could be all over the place. So I did. I picked up physically, started, and I was like, oh, this book's way different now that I'm actually devouring the sentences she writes and taking my time with it. So yes, definitely a chunky one, but it is a standalone, and this is for very specifically somebody wants a beautifully written book, something that they're gonna cherish, they're gonna really have an interesting time with, that'll get them into fantasy. I'd say I agree. Priory of the Orange Tree is a good one. So, all right. How many more we got?
We got two more.
Two more. All
right. What would you recommend for someone asking for a fantasy series?
Okay, so they want a whole series. They don't just want one book. They want a series that'll keep them busy for a while. That'll get them into fantasy. All right, you go first on this one.
So I picked Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. Yes, it's a trilogy, but then that trilogy leads into more trilogies. So like you read Farseer, then you can read Ship of Magic, Mad Ship, and it goes on and on and on. I've read the first two series in this world, or trilogies in this world. Robin Hobb has beautiful writing as well. Like she's a magician when it comes to crafting her sentences and her worlds. And I think, you go into it and if you like the first book, you have an infinite number of books that you can go into afterwards. So it'll keep you busy for a while. I would also say that Assassin's Apprentice, the first one in the Farseer trilogy, would be a good one as kind of like a gateway book. It's not like the fantasy world isn't super complex. Like you're not dealing with like an insane magic system or like it's not Malice, right? Like you can get into it pretty easily and understand what's going on, even if you're not used to fantasy. It has awesome villains. It has interesting protagonists. You know, you can decide if you like Fitz chivalry or not.
I like your comparison to Malice, and it's like, yeah, it's just a boy lives in this castle in the beginning, compared to some guy named Animander Rake on a floating moon, wiping out half a battlefield. Like,
okay, but like Animander Rake is like the best villain name ever, though.
It is. I'll give him that. I will give him that. So, all right, my turn.
Yep.
All right, let's get into my fun. I'm going to talk a little bit for this one. Now, just so we're clear, because I am going to talk about pros and cons. She has actually read further. She's read the newest one. You read 12 Months.
I did read 12
I haven't read 12 Months yet, but my recommendation for a fantasy series that I feel is going to get you into fantasy and give you a nice, clean introduction is going to be The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So every single booktuber says, oh, you got to get past the first two books. I don't think the first two books are that bad. I thought the first book was fine. You get a good introduction to the character. There's some funny scenes in it. There's some cool action in it. Mm-hmm. Sure, the villain isn't something that like it's going to carry on to like multiple books or anything, but you get like that set piece. And I feel like maybe when Jim Butcher was first writing it, it was like, I'm going to do like sort of that Monster of the Week vibe with each book. And then he started just building it into a bigger thing. Yeah. The second book, you know, everybody complains about that book too. I like werewolves, so I was fine with it. I can understand the complaints and all that. The biggest complaint that Dresden Files gets is the male gaze complaint, where they say, because the book is in first-person point of view from Harry Dresden's point of view. He is a wizard in Chicago, in our world. Like, it takes place in our world, our time period. And, you know, most people don't believe in magic and monsters and stuff, but he knows they exist, and he kind of helps solve weird cases. That's his whole introduction. We get this idea is like, all right, he's this wizard detective in Chicago. It gets way more insane than that as the series goes on, but his job actually evolves, in my opinion, as the series goes on. But there are complaints that when he sees women in the book, he always overly describes them as beautiful, curvy, bodacious, you know. And I feel like there's 2 points of view with that. One, you could get upset and say, like, yeah, maybe Jim Butcher shouldn't make every female character the hottest thing that's ever walked on the planet.
Yeah.
But also, maybe Harry Dresden just, you know, really, really, really thinks women are beautiful. Yeah. Anyone ever thought about that? He might just walk around and see beauty in things, you know? Like, he might just go around and see that. Who knows?
I will say, like, I've read all the books that are out. Well, I did the audio. Do the audio.
I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Audio. Anyway, but I've read all the books that are out, and it didn't bother, as a female, it didn't bother me the way that the women were described. The way that I viewed it was that, well, it's a male main character, and I'm inside his brain, so, like, that's what he's thinking. It didn't offend me in any way. I was more concerned with, like, ooh, well, what's going on? What's happening? Like, what's the monster doing in this book? Like, what's going to be the... So I think, I don't know, people always want to find something negative about everything. I think that's a minor issue. And so if I know the person, like some of your friends, I would say, no, don't read that, because they would turn it into a big issue. Other ones of your friends, no, you know, like they're just going to appreciate it.
I feel like you're just going to enjoy it. Like,
yeah.
I think if you just sit back and let the story be the story, you're going to read it, and at the end you're going to say, like, okay, I don't care. Like, there's so much more interesting stuff happening in the book. And I will say, it never got to a point. There was only one thing in the series, and I don't want to spoil it, where I thought Jim Butcher, I was like, it depends on what he does with this, but he did make the right choice, because there was a situation where there was a character who was into Harry Dresden, and she was way too young for him, but he made Dresden make the chivalrous decision to tell her, no, this cannot happen, this will not happen. Which some people complain about Dresden's chivalry in the book as always being the, I'm not going to hurt a woman and, you know, I have to do the right thing and I got to protect the girl or whatever, which I can see can being like, oh, you know, what a loser type of stuff. But like, he does occasionally have those moments though, where it's like, see, that is a good thing every once in a while. He does have those moments where his personality is beneficial for what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Now, she brought up the audio. James Marsters, the guy who plays Spike in the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, which is a deep cut for those of you who don't know what it is. He is Harry Dresden in our head. Yeah. Like, because I've read a couple of the books physical, but I did most of them as audio, and she did most of them as audio. And like his voice, once you do the first like 2 books in audio, he is Harry Dresden from that point. Like, even when you physically read it, you're reading it in James Marsters' voice. Yeah. It's hilarious. Like, it might be, in my opinion, the best consistent audio production, hands down. Like, you are getting it. So if like you want a series to get into, you got some commutes, some drives to make to get to work or whatever. Because like down here in the South, you got to commute everywhere. You got some commutes, you know, you got 30 minutes a day where you could be listening to audio. Mm-hmm. Pick up the Dresden Files. Like, you're going to love it. You're going to have a good time with it. Crazy stuff happens as the series grows. And people are right. By the time you get to the 3rd book, that 3rd book is the thing that kicks off like the bigger picture for the whole series. So that is true. I will say that. So I think I've talked about Dresden Files enough. Let's move on.
All right.
Our last one?
Last one.
All right.
What's a unique recommendation? Just a fun one. Special mention.
All right. So this is like, I think we looked at this as, I want you to read this book. I don't know if you're going to like it, but I don't know what else to recommend. And I'm maybe this, or like, this is like a weird special circumstance where I just know that this might work for this person. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing mine last.
Okay. I picked this one because it's kind of a cross-genre pick. I picked Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This is the only book that I've read by him, so I'm interested to try more of his work. But I picked this one because it's a kind of a genre bender between fantasy, horror, and a little bit of like historical fiction as well, which I really liked. Action-packed, really great characters. You have, a disgraced knight who's trying to help this girl who is seeing visions and she's kind of like the chosen holy one of this time. It's taking place during like the plague. Super interesting, really, really good. It's not that long either, so it's kind of a quick read for you. But
like, what if the Black Plague was like demonic invasion kind of deal, like dark forces and stuff? Yeah.
So I thought that that's a cool one. Just as like a fun, throw it at someone if they're asking, or if you're looking for something that's kind of a genre bender. It's good.
Yeah. All right. Between Two Fires. I read that one too. I really like that one too. Yeah, that's a good book. I liked it. All right, here's my unique special mention. I've gotten you through the first 3.
I got the first 4 now.
Oh, the first 4. The next one's the 5th one's my favorite. She needs to get into it so she can see why I love it. Although she probably won't, but it is what it is. All right, the one that's been on BookTube all over the place lately, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Let's talk about why this book's great, because it is a lit RPG. I know I haven't talked about this book I think on most of my videos. My top 10 fantasy. I mentioned The Butcher's Masquerade, but Dungeon Crawl, a couple years back when I want to say the 4th book was out and the 5th one was coming out, it got promoted on Kindle and I was like, this looks like something kind of silly, something I can kind of throw some time at. I read the synopsis and I was like, or whatever, the back of the book, and I remember I texted my friend, I was like, look, let's read this together because this seems like something we'd like. And he's like, okay. So the premise is Carl is hanging out at his house and some events happen, because I don't even want to spoil those events because they're hilarious.
They are.
That involves him now being in this dungeon that takes place on Earth, this dungeon game that's been created by aliens that very much mimics our jokes in modern society, our video games in modern society, our pop culture in modern society. Like, Matt Dinniman basically just said, I'm going to take all the memes, all the GIFs, all the video games everybody grew up with, all the movies everybody grew up with, and I'm just going to make this pop culture smorgasbord fantasy story. It is a lit RPG, and what that means is the characters are literally playing like a video game. Like they themselves, when they kill things, they level up and they gain skills and they gain spells. I have tried other lit RPGs. I'm still going to go back and try them again. But the thing I think Matt Dinniman does that a lot of them struggle with is maybe it's because he made his AI such an odd character. The grindy parts of the book, the part where they level up and they gain their stats and they gain their classes or whatever's going on, are entertaining to read, and they don't feel like they're bogging down the book. Because I have tried other lit RPGs, and that stuff can I remember one I got into was like, I don't remember. I think the author's name is Alaron Kong. He did this thing called The Founding. And I enjoyed the first book, but I remember like feeling bogged down by some of the stuff that, quite honestly, I'm not going to remember. Like, at this point in the series, I don't remember what spells they have. I'm not keeping track of that. So, like, the story is where this one's at. The reason this book keeps getting recommended is because you have almost like a nesting doll of stories. You've got, at the smallest level, this guy and his ex-girlfriend's cat.
Best character. That
now can talk and has sentience, thanks to events in the first book. Best character, Donut. Trying to survive. Because it is very much a survival horror in that sense. Like, when they encounter things, like, those things can and will kill them. It's not like video games where they get to come back to life.
Yeah.
So that is the smallest layer. Then the layer above that is what's going on with this dungeon. There's other characters in the dungeon. You're getting their stories. You're getting what's going on with them. You're getting their backgrounds. And I find a lot of those side characters to be almost as fun as reading Carl and Donut.
Yeah.
And then above that, you've got the AI and the syndicate and the space and the universe and why this even exists in the first place and why this season's different from other seasons and the bigger story happening there. So you got all that. And Matt Dinniman does a great job from the first book of giving you little tastes of that stuff without overwhelming you. I would say it's when you get to like the third book, you start to open up that door a little bit more. You start to see a little bit more of the wider picture. I'm caught up. I've read through the most recent one, Parade of Horribles. And I will say, like, my only complaint about the series is I do feel like sometimes Carl is smarter than I think he should be. And also I'm having a hard time just keeping up with everything at this point. Like, Matt Dinniman has gone crazy with the story. But it's, at the end of the day, if you're struggling with the top layer, then you go down to your comfort in the middle layer, or you go down to your Carl and Donut. I know one of my friend who reads it with me, his whole thing is just Carl and Donut. He's given up on understanding all the big stuff. He's like, I just want to see what happens with Carl and Donut, which that is fun all on its own. So you can have a good time with it. You're going to laugh at the jokes. If you're a millennial, you're going to love this book, hands down, because the jokes that are made in it, it's everything we had growing up. It's movie references growing up, the video games growing up. Like, each book, I can feel the vibes of a video game I played growing up, you know? The first two definitely feel like those old school Baldur's Gate feeling, games. And you got the train, which all kinds of stuff. The fourth one felt like Zelda to me. The fifth one felt like World of Warcraft, so on and so forth. Like, each sixth one is all about card games, like your Yu-Gi-Oh! And your Pokemon and all that, and Magic. So I thought that was kind of fun. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, each book you get that vibe. Like, the latest one, this would be a deep cut for those of y'all, but Peacock recently made the show. The latest one gave me very heavy Twisted Metal vibes. So, like, I was loving the heck out of that because I grew up playing Twisted Metal, and I thought that was a lot of fun. So, my special mention, and I'm going to stop talking about it, is Dungeon Crawler Crawl. Although I can talk about this series all the time because it is being hyped up on BookTube, and I think there's a reason for that right now. It is just that good. It is that fun to read.
And I will say, like, I'm not a video gamer at all. Like, I never have been and never will be, but I still enjoyed the books. I will say I did them on audio, and that is like, it's an amazing experience. Like, it is so entertaining. You almost feel like you're watching a TV show, but it's in your head.
Yeah. She's done the audio. That's another one that gets preached for its audio. Yes, Jeff Hayes does an amazing job. I don't do the audio, but the reason is because I read the first 4 myself, and I've actually read the first one out loud to my daughters. And those of you who've read the book, I censored myself while reading it. Certain lines I kind of left out so they didn't get to hear. But I developed my own voices for the characters. So once I do that in a series, I have a hard time going to an audio, especially a strong audio reading like Jeff Hayes, where he gives those characters their voices. I clash with that. So, like, go for it if you want to do the audio. I just haven't because I've already developed my own voices for him. So, like, my Carl voice is way different from his Carl voice. My Donut voice is way more British than his Donut voice.
I love his Donut voice. It's so good.
Yeah, like, that's a great series. Apparently they're making a TV show. There's a lot of arguments online. Everybody thinks it should be animated. I want them to challenge themselves and make it live action. I want to see practical effects. I want to feel like we're really pushing to make this a good show.
I hope so.
So we'll see.
It's really good.
We'll see. Anyways, that has been our list for random recommendations to get you into fantasy. Like, we decided to say, like, here's the prompts, here's the things. So, hopefully you had a pencil and pen or paper. I'm old school. Pen. I'm a teacher, so I'm an English teacher. Paper and pencil. Write them down.
Write it down.
But on your phone, use a notepad or whatever. Try some of these out. If you don't like them, sorry. Put your comments down below if you have other books you think you'd recommend. Remember the point of the list. I know sometimes we get lost in our thoughts because we love our genre. Like, I love Lord of the Rings, but if someone's like, I want to get into fantasy, I'm not handing them Lord of the Rings. Maybe The Hobbit, but not Lord of the Rings. Like, I know sometimes we say don't be selfish. Let's be selfish. We want them to stay in the genre. Yes. We want them to read our favorite books. So you got to tricksy them a little bit. You got to get them in there. You got to get them comfortable first. That's what I do to my students. Give them the light stuff first. I'm like, see, books can be good. And they're like, all right, I like this. What's next? And it's like, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
So, you gotta get them in there first. You gotta lure them in. You gotta get them into the genre first. You can't expect them to read Malice day one.
Why not?
Yeah, that's not happening. Floating moons, and battlefields being wiped in half, and portals being opened up, and then the whole time I'm like, so who's the main character?
Warrens.
What's the motivation?
Warrens.
Whatever. So, anyways, that's my only problem. Is like, I need to care about what's going on to pick up those details. All right, we're rambling now. So, anyways, go check out other YouTubers' lists. I feel like they have we tried to also hit some stuff they don't talk about that much, and some stuff that we haven't talked about on the previous list. So, like and subscribe. Stay nerdy. We have to sign off. Oh. All right.
Oh, God.
This is Carl and
Donut!
signing off.